What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I am Alex, and we thought we would do something a little bit different for this video. So, my wife, Christy, is here, and we thought we would do my wife reviews. You know, there's actually girlfriend reviews. That is a channel. That's a thing.
Yeah, she got attacked.
Yeah, actually with Hogwarts Legacy, right? So, we thought this would kind of be a fun thing. Christy's actually played it far double the length of time I played it. We'll get into some of the stats in a second, but I wanted to, we'll run off some questions with you. I'll ask you some stuff, and you'll review the game. They got my controversial, I like some things, I didn't like others. I think you're harsher than me for some things, even about this game. I think maybe in life, too. And then you don't care as much about other things that maybe I do care about. So, let's go over the stats. 76, 75 hours, somewhere around there.
I think I'm at
I think you're at 72, but you played more.
76, yeah, because I made the new profile under Hufflepuff.
Yeah.
For my next save. So I'm at 76 hours into the game, maybe.
And then Hufflepuff, you originally played most of it as Ravenclaw.
I played all of it as Ravenclaw.
Yeah. And then now you're going back in as
just to get to the open map chamber.
Yeah.
So I get the platinum. I'm attempting to get the platinum.
Okay, so overall, what'd you think?
Overall, I think that it was really good. I liked it a lot. Obviously, I put so many hours into it. I think the thing that surprised me the most was that the main story was actually really short. And if you don't do the side quests and all of the Merlin trials and finding other random things, then you're just going to finish the story in 2 days.
Yeah.
If you don't do your companion quests, I don't even know if they're companions. If you don't do your other people quests and other things, then yeah, you could finish the main story. I think once you get past the third trial, it's just done.
Yeah. I don't want to be afraid of doing spoilers, so if you want to run into them, but what'd you think of? Is the main story, I liked it more than I think the average. I think the average is it was okay at best.
Most of my thoughts were with the end of the game, because I feel like the beginning of the game, I loved it. The ending of the game, Professor Fig, I did cry. And the speech thing with Headmaster Black, that was terrible. His speech.
Really?
I know.
I loved it.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people thought it was funny. I thought it wasn't funny. I thought it was terrible and disrespectful to Professor Fig.
It was his.
And I liked when Professor, what was her name?
Weasley.
Professor, Weasley came up and then she gave the good speech. I liked that part.
I think that was supposed, because Black is that.
Because he doesn't know anything
I thought
about
that was perfect for both the characters to do something.
Well, it made sense because Professor Black didn't give a heck about any of the school or any of the students. I mean, he literally is just there for the title. Literally, that's his personality. And if you go through his office, you can actually find a paper where he submitted to the Ministry of Magic, where he tried to get it so that no Muggle-born students were allowed into Hogwarts. He wanted to super specify who was allowed into Hogwarts, but he got denied that request, obviously.
So what didn't you like about the ending?
The ending, I feel like the final battle was huge and really good. I liked running around about and fighting the dragon form of Ranrock. I liked fighting the battle, but I feel like when he died, he just kind of...
I don't think he died.
I feel like when he died, he just died. He just ended. He didn't have a speech of during the fighting, he would say things like, "You can't defeat me," stuff like that. But when you actually killed him, he was just gone. And it wasn't a final, "No, I was defeated." It wasn't anything. It was just gone. I feel like that was very anticlimactic because it ended and then he was dead and there was no, final villain speech or anything. It just was done and then you go to Professor Fig. Oh, and also one thing I didn't like, and this is gameplay wise of the ending, was that you go through to get to that point and it feels very rushed. All the professors come and help you and they, there's a couple cutscenes, but you just kind of run through and there's hardly anything that really happens. You kind of fight some of the goblins and then you just end up there. It's hardly an ending battle. It wasn't an intense ending battle. For example, God of War, the newer one. There was an intense battle in the ending. You went through all of the different places and you fought a bunch, but there was fighting a little bit, but you just kind of ran through with Professor Fig and made it to the end chamber.
What did you think about the combat?
Oh, I loved it. I like doing all the spells. I'm a big fan of using Bombarda. I did use Avada Kedavra at the end.
What about but you almost 100%ed, so you've gone that extra mile. What do you think about the world? But then, all the stuff there is to do, Merlin trials, collecting field guides, do you think?
I feel like in the beginning when I played the game, I loved it more than near the end because I loved discovering all of the parts of it. I loved flying around to different areas. Even when I played the main story, I mean, I would just, and this is how I play games in general, like Witcher 3, things like that. I would always just wander about until I accidentally wander into a quest somehow, and I would just kind of go about and discover areas on my own as not part of the story. And I loved doing that in in Hogwarts Legacy. The thing I didn't like was when I was trying to 100%, when I did almost get the platinum, when I finished 100% of the 92 or 96 million Merlin trials. I hated that you had to watch the graphic of the Merlin trial every single time. Every single time you completed, there's no skip option. And there's 95 of them, you said. There's 95 times I had to watch this 15-second thing with the gazebo coming out of the ground, and that started to drive me nuts.
Ancient Magic has that too.
Yeah, and the Ancient Magic cutscene when you have to find the same thing. Well, the Ancient Magic one I didn't mind too much because at least you had to go and then they conjoined back to that main point, and then she would say, "I wish Professor Fig was here to see." So like those. And I think the thing that just the Merlin trial, just watching the animation over and over. I didn't even mind the puzzles. I loved the puzzles. There was one in particular for the Merlin trial, which I'm sure maybe only me struggled with, but I hope other people did, so I'm not alone. But there was one where you had to get the ball up a very steep hill. You had to use Arresto Momentum to stop the ball whilst it's going up the hill. And then you couldn't go up the hill yourself because it was a slope. So if you went up a little, you just slide back down. And then if you didn't stop the ball in time, it's also going to slide back down. So you had to use Depulso and push it up and up and up. And that one drove me nuts because I kept trying to get close enough and I would fall back down and then the ball would fall back down. But it was a lot of fun. I feel like that was probably the most challenging one that they had. And then finding the fireflies was kind of a pain and bringing them back. But other than that, they were all really easy and like fun. So yeah, discovering all of the areas and everything, I feel like was a lot of fun. I also liked that the enemies would respawn. I know some people said they didn't like that. I did, because even if you cleared an area, if you needed that, extra point and stuff to get there, you could just go back to an area.
Do you think, one of my bigger questions, do you think like this game was worth it? I mean, you know me with how much I covered it, but even like taking some steps back as like the first Wizarding World thing in so long, was this the game that like you wanted it to be? Did you think it succeeded in what it was trying to do?
Yeah, I think so. I loved it a lot. I thought it was a lot of fun. I put 70 plus hours into it. I never got bored while playing, besides the Merlin Trials. Yeah, I think it was worth the $70 it cost. I mean, I don't think it. I guess depends on the version you bought, but with the version I bought, it was worth it.
Yeah. What about characters? So we mentioned Fig, Black, and Weasley. How do you feel about, because I don't feel very strongly about the villains of Ranrock Rookwood, but even like Sebastian. So Sebastian's obviously everybody's kind of favorite. You were talking to me while playing with Sebastian all the time. So Sebastian, Poppy, Natsai, what'd you think about the cast? You as a character?
I love Sebastian and Ominous, their whole dynamic together, their whole friendship, and it's the devil on the shoulder, where basically you're supposed to be the other shoulder, it kind of felt like. Ominous was like, don't do anything, and then you're the other one, like, well, at least how I played, I was like, no, let's just go. But I also like Natsai's quests. Hers were kind of fun because you got to just kind of discover a whole new wizarding world from her past. And if you like listen to a lot of her stories and things, it was a lot of fun to know that, like, I didn't know you can become an animagus. So that was a lot of fun to discover. And just watching her whole quest and everything was a lot of fun. And Poppy's quest, I feel like Poppy's was the shortest and kind of thrown in there. And I loved hers a lot because I love the beasts and everything in Hogwarts Legacy. I absolutely love going around collecting them all. I wish Poppy's was more for her story, but in the way that her story kind of ended was just very abrupt, where you found, the last mythical creature, and then you just kind of give it to the centaurs, and you're just like, all right, well, you watch that for us, then we'll just head off, I guess. So I kind of wish that Poppy's had more. But Sebastian's was probably the most story impactful. I feel like his was part of the main story. Like, you can't have the main story without Sebastian's. But I liked his a lot, and I kind of got mad at Sebastian. And like Alex, when he played, he just kind of full on went evil with Sebastian and was like, "Nah, it was worth it. Everything was justified that you did." But when I played it, I was like, I mean, you didn't need to make the goblin slice himself right in front of your sister. You didn't need to,
But what you find is that's one of the weaknesses I find of the game. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's one thing that really made me mad, actually, because I watched Alex play through too, and then I did my own, was I did choose different things for Sebastian where I didn't agree with his choices when he, I was saying, when he first slipped, right in front of his sister. I went to the uncle, and my option I chose was I think he went a little overboard there. But then the character came out and said, like, basically she was defending him. And I was like, but that's not what I clicked. I definitely clicked that, nah, that man went too far there. But the dialogue came out, and then the uncle yelled at me. I was like, how dare you defend him? I was like, I wasn't defending him, though. I didn't agree, but I had no choice. So I was like, all right, well, if it's going to choose it for me anyway, I guess like the dialogue option with Sebastian, it was kind of like you had to choose. And so that kind of disappointed me a lot. I kind of wanted to be the good person on Sebastian because, yeah, he went too far, in my opinion, for some of the things he did in the early part. But yeah, so I would think that the story-wise, like the dialogue and everything kind of made me mad, where it was like no matter what I picked, it didn't matter for Sebastian.
I want to ask lastly about the Room of Requirement, because I don't even think I mentioned it in my review because I didn't care. But I think one of the strengths of the game, I thought the Room of Requirement would actually be more detailed, but credit to you. I mean, I think everything that you could have done in the Room of Requirement, you definitely, messed with. So how did you feel about, like, did you think there would be, because I got more of like an Animal Crossing, like it would have been more than what it was, but you had it looked like a blast, with everything there, which included the beast that you mentioned earlier. So what did you think about the Room of Requirement?
For the Room of Requirement, I think it went above and beyond what I thought it was going to be. I mean, I literally thought when you first went in there, that's what it was going to be, was just a little room.
Yeah.
And then every so often the story would progress, and all of a sudden it would be added and bigger and more rooms were added. And then like at the very end, all of a sudden they expanded the second part of it massively too. And I did spend a lot of time. I did decorate every single wall and carpet and floor and building, and mine is 100% Hufflepuff Ravenclaw mixture, where it's all Hufflepuff aesthetic, but Ravenclaw's blue and silver. I did do every little detail. I did put 1 million potion stations and all of the plant stations. So yeah, I feel like
you had breeding things.
Yeah, I had
all sorts of stuff.
I went into the rooms and I decorated the animal sanctuaries, and I sorted them each by like mythical creatures.
You named them? I never named them.
Yeah, I named I named them some really weird ones. There's like those little poof. I named them Dirt Poof and Dust Poof. And then there's one of the Thestrals I named Lucius because he looked like he is blonde with blonde hair. So like I named all kinds of things. I decorated all kinds of things. But I think it was a lot more than I thought it would be. Like you get some moving paintings that you can place in areas, and some non-moving paintings you can place in areas. You can even decorate the wall, like the windows. You can decorate the aesthetic, what it looks like. You could have it Ravenclaw themed. You could have it Slytherin kind of themed, with like, even if you're a Ravenclaw student. So I loved those parts. I feel like it was a lot of details. There's a lot of things you can do in it. I liked seeing Deke every time I went in there, and he only said the same couple phrases, but I loved it because he's always complimenting.
Deke's an underrated story. With like his character and even his friend that you have to go through the whole thing with the spiders and stuff.
That was a sad
Deke's actually well, sometimes in this game there's some side stories that
there
just,
is some
really
depressing
hit.
stories, especially the one with the village that was taken over by spiders, and you can find notes on the rooftops. I didn't expect that. I was just flying around and found a note, and it was someone's like, "We're trapped up here and there's nothing left," and I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, some of those side missions go pretty deep and like it kind of spread. But Deke's, I think, honestly, when I think of like the best characters in the game, I just kind of forget he was even in it. But he's a really good character.
I would never. I think probably because you didn't go to your room of requirement. He would always compliment when you come in. You should be proud of yourself for all the potions you've managed to do. Even I know this is like a huge thing. I've seen tons of TikToks about it too. But the flu powder lady. I know a lot of people absolutely hate the saying of the flu powder lady. so many times, but I loved it. I thought it was fun. Every time I see her, she'd be like,
Where are you?
travel was.
Yeah, yeah. What are you up to now? That's one
Yeah.
of her
Every time she
go-to.
said that, I would say, nothing good. But I liked running into her all the time. And also, I feel like some quests, when I would get lost, because like I said, I like to wander, I would hear her voice all of a sudden, and I'm like, oh, cool, I made it to one of those things.
Yeah.
So I didn't hold a grudge against the flu powder lady like everyone else.
Yeah, I didn't hate her as much as other people either, honestly.
I feel
Well,
like if you fast travel a lot, maybe you would hate her because every single time you go to a destination. But if
Yeah.
you're flying around, I mean,
yeah. What'd you think? Well, I got a final question, just a summary. What you would say about the game in closing.
in closing, I absolutely loved it. I wish that there was more because I wanted more because I loved it so much. Ravenclaw's story, like their personal quest, I will say, was lame. And
So is Griffin. I think Hufflepuff's the only good one.
I mean, it wasn't horrible. I loved going into the owl thing and seeing all the owls, but it was kind of boring. But otherwise, the whole premise of everything was a lot of fun. I know a lot of people were disappointed that there wasn't any Quidditch, but as someone who sucked at the broom flying off, like I had to ask Alex to do the broom trial things for me because I couldn't pass the times. I'm fine with no Quidditch. I was okay with just the ball game, which was a lot of fun. So yeah, overall, great game. I loved it. I'd say probably 8.5 out of 10, only because my 10 out of 10 is high. And I just think that I wish the story was longer. But other than that, I think the detail that they did absolutely was amazing. I love the tribute to Hagrid that they put in there. And you could even find Snape as a little Jack-in-the-Box thing. I loved all of the small story aspects of it that were hidden in there. If you didn't know, like a lot of backstory was kind of hidden in there, including the hallway of smell. If you didn't know, there was a whole thing about that, which was a lot of fun. And the Ravenclaw common room was phenomenal and beautiful. And I know when I played the game, I was like, I'm not going to go in thinking like, holy cow. But when I went into my common room, I actually felt like, holy cow, this is amazing. And I was messaging my best friend being like, my common room is amazing. And I sent her videos of it because she started as a Hufflepuff. And I was like, you got to see this. And it was absolutely great. I loved it. So yeah.
Very good. Well, let us know what you think. Let us know if you like this format. We'll have to get rid of this shadow that's here. But beyond that, I mean, maybe we can bring Christy back to do other game reviews in the future if this works. But let us know what you think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turned on, and we'll see you all on the next one.